Year 878 AD. A tiny swamp island in the heart of Wessex. One man, half dead from exhaustion, hides in a peasant's hut while the greatest Viking army the world has ever seen burns England to the ground. His name? Alfred. They called him the Great, but at that moment, he was just a fugitive king who had lost everything. How did this broken man create the Kingdom of England? How did 7 warring tribes become one nation that would one day rule half the world? This is not just the story of kings and battles. This is the birth of England itself, from the blood-soaked fields of 802 to the final arrow that changed history in 1066. Welcome to the dawn of the British monarchy. Introduction and the Heptarchy. Welcome to the first episode of our complete history of the British royal family. For centuries, Britain was not one country. It was 7 kingdoms locked in endless war: Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, Essex, Kent, Sussex, and Wessex. Historians call it the Heptarchy. But in the year 802, everything changed. A man named Egbert returned from exile in the court of the mighty Charlemagne. He seized the throne of Wessex and began the long, bloody journey toward one England. By 825, at the Battle of Ellendun, Egbert crushed the mighty kingdom of Mercia. The Anglo-Saxon chronicle proudly calls him Bretwalda, ruler of Britain. For the first time, one king's shadow stretched across the island. But peace was an illusion, because from the cold seas of the north, a new terror was coming. The Viking storm arrives, 793 AD. The first Viking raid on Lindisfarne Monastery shocked Christian Europe. Monks were slaughtered, treasures stolen, and the raiders vanished into the mist. By the 840s, the raids turned into full invasions. In 865, the great heathen army landed, led by the sons of Ragnar Lothbrok. They destroyed Northumbria, killed its king, and marched south. One by one, the ancient kingdoms fell. Only Wessex stood. And in 871, a 22-year-old prince named Alfred became king at the worst possible moment. Alfred the Great, early struggle. Alfred was no ordinary king. He had traveled to Rome twice as a child. He could read and write when most nobles couldn't, but he was also a warrior. In 871, he fought 9 major battles in 1 year. At Ashdown, he led the charge with his brother, and the Vikings were defeated for a while. But in 878, disaster struck. The Vikings surprised Wessex at Chippenham in winter. Alfred's army was destroyed. The king fled into the marshes of Athelney with just a handful of men. Legend says he was so poor he once burned the cakes of a peasant woman and was scolded like a common man. Many kings would have surrendered. Alfred did not. The miracle of Edington and the treaty from the swamps, Alfred rebuilt. He gathered loyal warriors, sent secret messages, and in May 878 launched one final attack at Edington. The battle was ferocious. Alfred's men formed a shield wall that held against Viking axes for hours. When the Vikings broke, Guthrum, the Viking leader, fled. Alfred showed mercy. He didn't kill Guthrum. Instead, he baptized him as a Christian and signed the Treaty of Wedmore. Guthrum retreated to East Anglia. For the first time, England was divided. Anglo-Saxon south, Viking Danelaw north. But Alfred knew this was only the beginning. Alfred's revolution, the real birth of England. Alfred became the first king to think like a nation builder. First, he created the burgh system. 33 fortified towns across Wessex, each exactly 1 day's march apart. Every free man had to serve in defense. He built England's first real navy, long ships designed to chase Vikings at sea. He reformed the law, creating the famous Doom Book, mixing old Saxon laws with Christian justice. Judges now had to be literate. Most revolutionary of all, he started the first English education system. He personally translated books from Latin to Old English. Boethius, Gregory the Great, even the Bible. He said, "It is better to leave your children a good education than gold." Alfred died in 899, but he had planted the seed. England was no longer 7 kingdoms. It was becoming one people, Edward the Elder and the Reconquest. Alfred's son Edward the Elder and daughter Ethelfled, Lady of the Mercians, continued the fight. Together they pushed the Vikings back, fortress by fortress. By 918, the last Viking stronghold in the south was taken. But the final piece was still missing: the north. In 924, Alfred's grandson Athelstan became king. In 927, he marched north and captured York, the last Viking kingdom in England. For the first time in history, one man ruled all of what we now call England. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle calls him King of the English. Historians call him the first king of England. In 934, he invaded Scotland and forced the Scottish king to submit. But his greatest test came in 937 at the Battle of Brunanburh. A huge alliance, Vikings from Dublin, Scots, and Britons from Strathclyde invaded. The poem in the Chronicles says the ground ran red with blood for days. Athelstan's victory was total. England was safe. Athelstan died in 939, but he had done what no one before him could. He created England. Decline Ethelred and Canute. After Athelstan, weak kings returned. Ethelred the Unready, meaning ill-advised, paid Vikings huge sums of silver, Danegeld, to leave. It only made them hungrier. In 1013, the Danish king Sweyn Forkbeard conquered England. His son, Canute, became king of England, Denmark, and Norway, the first Viking emperor of the North Sea. Surprisingly, Canute ruled wisely and became a Christian, but when he died, chaos returned. Edward the Confessor, and the end, in 1066. In 1042, Edward the Confessor, a pious, childless king, returned from exile in Normandy. He promised the throne to his cousin William, Duke of Normandy. When Edward died in January 1066, the powerful Earl Harold Godwinson seized the crown. But two invasions came at once. Norwegian King Harald Hardrada landed in the north. Harold defeated him at Stamford Bridge on the 25th of September 1066, one of the bloodiest days in English history. Just 3 weeks later, William landed in the south. Exhausted, Harold marched 250 miles south and met William at Hastings on the 14th of October. The battle lasted all day. Harold's housecarls held the high ground, but when Harold was struck in the eye by an arrow, the English line broke. By Christmas Day 1066, William the Conqueror was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. The Anglo-Saxon monarchy was over, but the idea of England that Alfred and Athelstan created lived on and would become the British monarchy we know today. Next episode, 1066, William the Conqueror and the Norman Invasion. If you loved this, hit subscribe, like, and comment which king you want to see next. The full playlist is in the description. England was born in fire, and its story had only just begun.